Welcome back, sports fans, to another season of pro football. You're watching the Pride of the North Sports with the Finisher. I have a few topics I want to discuss today. 1, the D-line. 2, injuries. 3, receiver core. 4, rookies. And 5, the veteran additions that were made last March and early spring. And also some of the new additions that were brought in here just recently because of some injury to another key cornerback. But let's get into the D-line first. The D-line in the first preseason looked okay. I would have liked to seen a little bit more from the veteran additions. The rookies, you don't have like elite talent there, so you're progressing with them. They need to be taught more. Of course, everybody knows this. It's a work in progress with your rookies that you get in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, right? Even the 4th round sometimes. Like Brock, he was injured. He played only a few games last season. He lost a whole season basically. But he is progressing. He's going to get there. He needs to work on his technique, learn his leverage a little bit more, but there is potential there. I'm a little bit more on Brock Martin this year on his side than I was last year because I thought when they drafted last year they needed to get elite defensive line talent. I still think they still do need that to a certain point, but Brock Martin, Wingo, I thought, what did they draft him in the 7th, 6th round or whatever it was? But these young players are the future of the D-line, and I think once they learn the NFL way, they put in the hard work, learn their leverage, learn their schemes, learn to trust their teammates to trust them. I believe that Wingo and Martin are the future D-line tackles of the Detroit Lions defensive line. Reader, we know he's injured and won't see action for a little bit. I don't know exactly what the timetable is for Ryder, but McNeil, he's a veteran. He's not going to be out there either. They don't want to get any more injuries like we've seen here late in the training camp, preseason period. So, we all know the preseason's been shortened up. Actually, in my opinion, with that, I like only the 3-game preseason when we get into game action. But that's a different discussion for another day. But the defensive line, I think, is going to be really a strength of this team, where it was actually a weakness for quite a few years, even before they got Ryder or Martin, Wingo, and Hutchinson, and Hudson, and all of them. It was a weakness for a while, after Sue and all them left, okay? But my point is this is going to be a strong point for them and the linebackers, okay? But I do have a concern about Houston and how they're trying to use them. But they have reversed that, and I've heard some stories out of the Lions camp that the experiment of him being a linebacker is done, and they're going to revert him back to being just a pure rusher and a guy that will move across the defensive line, pressuring the offensive line and hopefully pressuring the quarterback like Hutchinson does. So that's a good thing. I think trying to make Houston a linebacker, that's not his strong suit. I think he is a pass rusher, a pure pass rusher to an extent. But he reminds me of a Green Bay Packer that used to be a hybrid, which he couldn't be a hybrid, and what has been a hybrid, a linebacker slash pass rusher, was Clay Matthews for the Green Bay Packers. And that, I think, is Detroit's. Clay Matthews is Houston, okay? Houston is a viable hybrid linebacker, pass rusher type player, to be honest with you. And I think they need to utilize them in that way. We'll see if they do or not. But, of course, they're going to do the best for the team and the player so Houston will progress and not regress. So we'll see if that experiment keeps going in the preseason and goes through to the regular season, but I highly doubt it. I think he will be a hybrid like he's been before, like Clay Matthews was with the Green Bay Packers for many, many successful years. And I think Houston will be that type of player again. Be a great pass rusher and fall back into coverage to trick that offensive line and quarterback that they're opposing. So we'll see. Hopefully that'll happen and he goes back to being this pass rusher slash linebacker that he was. Okay, now let's get into the injuries. I know some of you out there are worried about some of the injury bug that has plagued the Lions here during training camp and the early part of the preseason, which every team has them, just like Minnesota. They just came out a couple days ago after McCarthy went surgery. He's gone for the season. They were hoping that he would eventually take the reins over in Minnesota because they have everything in place. So every team gets them. I know you don't want your Lions to be non-healthy, but it's the nature of the beast. You play sports, you're going to get injured. I know this playing sports myself. So you just got to take it with a grain of salt. Gibbs, I know, is the most recent casualty, but it's not like it's a big injury, people. He will be there, maybe not the first game, but he will be there for most of the beginning of the season. So, and then hopefully he keeps healthy for the rest of the season. So, but I think he might even be back for the start of the season. But that's the brilliance of Holmes and Campbell and this organization. They foresee some of this stuff, and that's why they have multiple good players that can step up and fill the roles. Maybe they don't have another Gibbs, okay? Yes, I get it. But you have players that can fill multiple roles for that offense or that defense. And you still have Montgomery. Montgomery's a really great running back. And Reynolds is a viable running back that could fill in at any time. And that Vicka, oh my God, I am very high on Vicka. Be honest with you, I think Vicka was brought in by Holmes to take Montgomery's spot when he leaves. And it'll probably be after the season, but Vicka is a hell of a running back. And you guys have to realize, if you don't realize already, when he was at Utah, he switched from defense to offense, and when they needed a running back, and he was just scratching the surface. I think Vicka might be another Montgomery or better. We're going to see maybe in Vicka's third year, or maybe next year, Vicka and Gibbs being the elite running core that everybody is going to want, need, So I'm very high on Vicka. He is a hell of a player and a hell of a running back, and we have only seen just a little bit of what his potential could be going forward. So, and then I know some of the there's been offensive injuries too. So, kind of to some of the drafted late round offensive linemen, which is fine. We've got our offensive line, we got our backups. They can rest. They can, recuperate. Take their time. It's fine. To me, it's fine. I'd rather have the injury bug right now than in December and January when the games are really counting and you're pushing for a playoff spot or one of the two top playoff spots, and then go into the playoffs and be injured. I'd rather have all the injuries now. Give me all the injuries now. I don't care. I know you guys will be like, no, I don't want any injuries. Well, I'd rather have them now than, later in the season. I'm like anybody. I don't want the Lions to have any injuries, but if they're going to happen, have them happen now. That's all I'm saying. So, but let's get on to the wide receiver core. The wide receiver core is still, I think, needs some talent, more depth, and I don't know if Holmes is going to do anything more with what he, add on to what he's got. I don't think he wants a prima donna. This is not what this team is. I know everybody there's been some of these wide receiver divas that have been out there that are more than capable, very talented, elite wide receivers, but I don't want them if they're going to come in and be a cancer in the locker room or on the field, okay? Don't want them. I used to, but I don't want another Charles Rogers or a Roy Williams type deal. Yeah, now if he's say like a Larry Fitzgerald or our one great wide receiver I can't think of right at the moment that wore 81. Can't think of his name right now. I know I'm going to get a little backfeed on that one, but if those or a Jefferson, if those type of wide receivers are available, okay then. That's fine. because they aren't going to be cancers to the locker room. Kelvin Johnson just struck me. Kelvin Johnson. I would take Kelvin Johnson in a heartbeat, because these are wide receivers that go out there, they practice, they're leaders, they're veterans, and they do what it is for the team to, so the team can get better. They get better so the team can get better. I know some people think Jefferson's kind of a diva. Not really. I like the guy, but I know he plays for Minnesota. I would love to see Jefferson as a Lion, but that is not going to happen. But those are the type of wide receivers I would bring in. If you don't have any wide receivers like that, then I don't care. Lions could have traded for Hopkins. They didn't want Hopkins either. So they only want a certain type of player, and if it's not out there, they don't go for it. And kudos to Holmes and Campbell to sticking to their guns for that and making the right decisions for the team and the future of the organization going forward. So Holmes and Campbell, they keep getting criticized by the analysts. I think Holmes and Campbell are phenomenal. Okay? I know Campbell needs to learn a little bit more about being a head coach. Maybe he learned some lessons from, losing to the 49ers. Going forward, he might implement those working mistakes into positive head coaching things, So, but now let's talk about our rookies. I've already talked about Vika and how I think he's just a great pickup in the draft, a late round pickup. I think he was a very great value for the Lions. But our two corners, I am very high on our two corners. Arnold wasn't overly impressive, but he was impressive enough where I believe he is going in the right direction. And he wants to be here. He's working hard. And he's just a phenomenal talent that needs to keep growing, progressing, and learning from the veterans how to be a pro football player in the NFL. And he's got all the tools, just he needs to keep on the right trail. And Campbell and the veteran defensive team unit hopefully will keep his head straight, which I think they will. Okay? And then you have Rakestraw Jr. Very hard name to say, I guess, but he was very impressive. I think he was more impressive than Arnold. He might actually be better than Arnold. He's a physical corner. He covers really well in that nickel. And I just think he's another bargain that should have went in the first round that they got. It was a first round talent that should have went in the first round, and the Lions were lucky to get him, I think. He's going to be a good nickel corner cover guy. So, and he's going to progress too. So I'm very high on our corners. Very high on our corners. Our secondary, I think, is going to be a lot better than it was last year. We had injuries, prima donnas on the secondary last year, and I think that's what the brilliance of Holmes and Campbell is. in their brain trust type deal is they saw that this didn't work, so we're going to go and get a veteran that likes to work hard and knows the NFL and wants to be with us, and then get us another veteran and two rookie that will learn from them that don't have the ego yet, and maybe they will never have the ego, and they will just be great players for the Lions for many, many years. And this is why that's the brilliance of Holmes and Campbell. They learned from last year's mistakes of signing the prima donna players, injury-ridden players. Good, gone, bye. New secondary, new life. I think it's going to be another strength of the Lions. Be honest with you, at every level, from the D-line to the linebackers to the corners to the safeties, every level of this defense is better and is going to progress to get even greater. I think this defense, the sky is the limit for them this year. I truly believe this because of the talent they brought in last year in the draft and this year's draft, the veterans that they sprinkled in, the talent that they brought in over the last 3 to 4 years in the draft from Hutchinson, Houston, Campbell, the linebacker, Barnes, Anzalone as a veteran, bringing him from New Orleans, from drafting Kirby Joseph. Their other safety now, and I'm very highly eyeing him too. To the rookies that they have, and the two veterans. This team is loaded on defense now. I mean, maybe not loaded on defensive line, but this team has some talent, and I think maybe they might be better than San Francisco's defense now. Be honest with you, and the Rams defense, and maybe Tampa Bay's defense now. I really think their defense can go with anybody, can stop anybody now. So, Brian Branch. That I don't know why I keep forgetting these names and then remember him, but Branch and Joseph in the safety. Oh my Lord! If any of you were alive during the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, Branch and Joseph, and I keep harping on this, remind me of White and Blades, but even more talented and even more aggressive and more heavy hitting. I mean, they're ball hawks. Branch can play the nickel if he has to, but I think that's Ray Straw's job now, and I think Ray Straw is going to be absolutely awesome in that. So, I know I got a little off a topic there for a second with the defense and not talking about the rookies, but offensively, didn't do too much except for the depth on offensive line, which they needed. Did need to get some wide receivers because they did let Antonio Green go this week, so he wasn't hacking it, so they let him go. So we'll see if they sign somebody or trade. They just don't. I think Holmes does not want a diva on the team or a cancer in the locker room, one that'll be a team player. So now the veteran add-ons have kind of gone into that. On offensive line, Zetter, I think was a great one-year contract. Prove yourself that you're still worthy of that Pro Bowl type level, talent that he has, and so I think he was actually an upgrade to what we had actually, and I think that offensive line is more solidified this year than it was the last couple of years. But guys move on. They want to move on. They think they can get more money, more fame. That's fine. But we brought in somebody with at a Pro Bowl level, and on a 1-year contract to prove himself. That's a good scenario for the Lions, and it's worked in the past. Not on every occasion, but almost like 85% of the time it works for the Lions. So I'm not going to question that with Holmes either. I think the offensive line is another strength. Tight end, another, with Campbell. I think a lot of people think that he's going to regress. I think he's going to progress and just get even better. He's going to be a blanket for golf going forward. The running backs are awesome, but getting a little off a topic. But with Reader coming aboard on the defensive line, I think is going to be a great addition to what the Lions are trying to do. And then the Lions added 2 veteran corners. Not like elite talent, but they do know how to cover, the 4th and 5th and 6th wide receiver if they need it. And they're going to compete and push the rookies that we drafted, and maybe push the veterans too, and get some more competition. And that only bodes well for the Lions and that defense. But I like a lot of the add-ons at Homestead with the veterans, trading for Carlton Davis. He was, I think, a great addition. Robertson was another great add-on that he needs to prove himself too. And Holmes said, gave him contracts if you want to be in for past your this year or your 2-year contract, prove yourself and we'll give it to you. We saw it with St. Brown, then just here with Decker, and the left or right tackle of it's awesome. And then golf gets one too. You put in the work, you play hard, you help this team win, you give it your all, you're gonna get a contract. That's the message. Was this off season? You do well, you get a contract, you get an extension, you get more money. Enough said. And I think it just bodes really well for the future and going forward for this franchise. But that's all for now. Thank you for stopping by. Please click that like button, and please put a comment if you want. But I will see you next time when the regular season begins. Have a good night and talk to you later.